Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll be starting the webinar in just a few moments. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this, well, if you're in the UK, a very wet and windy Thursday afternoon, 4 o'clock here in London. Webinar session number 4, Augmented Reality, enabling retailers to open their high street doors online. Thank you if you've been with the Retail Bulletin throughout the day. This is our 4th and final session of the day. We've had some brilliant events, brilliant engagement. So if you've done all 4, you get a medal. Thank you very much for coming back again. But this is the final wrap of the day, and 3 great guys to introduce you to shortly. I am Darren. I'll be your moderator again. If you have just joined us for the first time today, you're also very welcome. There is a Q&A button that you can use during the session. It will either be at the top or the bottom of the screen, depending on what device you are using. Please do use it. We've had brilliant engagement throughout the day. And my job as moderator is to make sure that every one of your questions gets answered. So if you ask a question, we will answer it. So please do get involved. My dog's at home, Scamp. So some of you will be aware of Scamp from previous Retail Bulletins. I'm thinking she's going to behave herself, but just a little heads up in case she makes an unexpected appearance, as she has done in some previous webinars. For now, I'm going to get over to introduce our panel, and really excited to work with these gentlemen this afternoon and get some insights from them. So I'm going to kick off with you, Vince, if I may, and just ask you to tell us who you are and a bit about your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Darren. So my name is Vince Cacace. I'm the founder and CEO of Vertebrae. We are an LA-based 3D and augmented reality platform for retailers and brands. And essentially what we do is we help retailers and brands use 3D and augmented reality, which we treat as virtual try-on and product placement, just using your mobile device. We allow them to use that like product photography. And so, if you view, we view 3D and AR as ubiquitous as product photography is, and for product photography of systems to capture, manage, and deploy that content. And that's essentially what our system does, but for 3D and augmented reality. And the associated benefits that come with that are that, just the utility questions that are otherwise hard to answer for consumers, like how big is it? How does it look in my space? How does it look on me? What are the details? And being able to easily answer those questions, while going through the consideration cycle as a means to drive conversion and revenue per visit, while of course increasing engagement. So nice to be here and excited for the conversation.
No, thank you. And also thank you so much to Vertebrae for the sponsorship for the webinar today as well. It's really appreciated. And you're coming live from Austin, Texas. What time is it with you, Vince?
It's 10 a.m.
Okay, well, thank you for giving up your time this morning for your time. And I'm looking forward to hearing more from you as we go through the panel. James, back here in the good old grey UK. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing well, thanks, Darren. Yeah, I'm James from DFS Furniture Group. So we're the largest retailer of sofas in the UK, for those of you that don't know us. But my role as head of online is to provide a great customer experience for those customers that are either in the research phase, looking to buy in store or online, or just post-purchase. So yeah, we've been dabbling in the AR world for a little while. We're only really sort of ramped up our service in that area in sort of around 2019, working with Vince and the Vertebrae team. So yeah, looking forward to the conversation today.
And I'll come on to it more in the session, but were you guys already making good headway with this before the pandemic hit, yeah? Yeah. So we sort of, we played around with it previously, but yeah, we certainly were in it really from sort of 2019. Okay, good stuff. Okay, well, I look forward to hearing more about that, but thanks for joining us as well, James. Steve, all the way from Salt Lake City. Tell us about you, sir.
My name's Steve Gensler, and I'm a co-founder of Cacace Eye Appliances. And at Cacace, we like to think of ourselves as the anti-aging brand. My co-founders and I are all of reading glass age. And as that, phase of life set upon all of us, we weren't very happy with the current offering and kind of perception of readers in the market, whether they were drugstore readers or whatever. And so we decided that we were going to make stuff we liked, and we all come from the action sports or outdoor industries, and we were going to call on our friends and family to kind of join us kind of on our ride to, show that just because you're older or you're aging doesn't mean that you have to retire to the old folks home. But that's our focus, is readers in varying shapes and forms.
Thank you so much for joining us as well. I know we were asking you at rehearsal the other day, but what time is it with you right now?
It's 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Okay, so you're the earliest of the gang.
Yes,
so
yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us and giving up some of your time for this panel. I really appreciate it. I'm reading glass generation, by the way, as well. I have to add a pair of reading glasses on top of lenses. It all gets very complicated. So for this webinar, I'm wearing absolutely nothing because I can read and look at the screen all at the same time. So I feel the pain of reading glasses too. Let's kick off. Vince, I'm going to kick off with you, if I may. How has web-based AR opened things up for e-commerce more broadly?
Yeah, I think going back to the intro words, it's become as ubiquitous as photography or other site elements. And so if you think about AR historically, it's either been cartoonish or buried inside a mobile application where there was a lot of friction to use it, and maybe it was just for the most tech savvy of users. But now it's really just easy and straightforward to use, the press of a button, and anybody, any demographic can easily and quickly get value from the experience. And so just thinking about even some of the use cases on this call here, like James and DFS have the largest web-based augmented reality rollout in the world, and tens of thousands of products live in AR shoppable today. And Steve has one of the world's first accurate size and scale glasses try-on that's web-based in the world. And so being able to have those sorts of experiences where they're not only across a catalog and accurate size and scale, but they actually give you all the details about the the product that you're looking at. And so I think from a ubiquity perspective, it's opened up to not only all mobile devices that any user has on any operating system, but also even onto desktop. Like we have flows for QR codes on desktop, where similar to how you now scan a QR code when you go to a restaurant and you get a menu, you scan a QR code from a desktop experience, and it deep links into an AR experience on mobile. And so lots of flows that just make the timing and the technology that much more relevant. And obviously the pandemic has accelerated the need for that, but you could also see these like James was alluding a minute ago. I mean, this is valuable and happening for quite some time before that as well.
I feel like the pandemic is kind of brought the QR code right back into focus. Actually, it's sort of they seem to be absolutely everywhere now.
Yeah, it definitely became a lot more. A lot more users became accustomed to using it, which just makes the desktop experience that much easier for people to use.
Thank you, sir. I'll come back to you shortly as well. James, let's go over to you and the gang at DFS. So in your intro, you mentioned that you started using AR technology sort of in 2019. So you didn't have to play running catch up when the global pandemic whacked us all in March last year. But why were you investing in AR technology around that time? What was the moment that brought you to that fact?
Yeah, our history with AR goes back quite a few years actually, so 5 years or so, where we were, hello, sorry, lost Darren. We were playing around with an app, as Vince has sort of described. So, but we knew that the app was, we were struggling to get people to download the app. And actually it became a real pain in terms of maintaining the two experiences. So for us, the game changer was, I think, September 2018, when the iOS 12 release came out. AR Kit element of that enabled us to do some trials around augmented reality. I think for us, it was then a case of trying to find a provider that fit with us, that could offer us the service we needed and the experience and expertise, I guess. But the reason we've always been interested in it is because we know that in our industry in particular, around 85% of customers research online before going into store. And actually, we want to make that journey easier for customers. There's normally two questions that they're burning questions they've got in their mind around, will it fit physically and will it fit aesthetically? And I think, AR really helps us answer both of those. So that's definitely why we wanted to kind of do it, to address that sort of those customer questions. I think for us, it's kind of a case of trying to prove that helps us from a conversion perspective online, but also future-proofs us for some other things we want to do and use those assets in an offline environment as well. So yeah, that's kind of why we've always been kind of keen on investing in this area.
By the way, if you hear any kind of really weird noises, there is a crazy wind in central London right now where it is actually rattling my windows here in central London. So if my windows suddenly blow in front of me, then there'll be a very dramatic turn to this webinar at some point.
I thought we'd lost you there, Darren. I thought we'd lost you.
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't. There's some really funky weather going on outside right now in central London. James, how do you get past the comfort test? So I understand, how AR would help in terms of some of the things you've mentioned around will it fit, what will it look like, and so on. But surely with furniture, one of the first things you want to do in a furniture showroom is sit on the furniture and feel whether it's comfortable.
Yeah, no, the sit test, as we call it, is vital. We know for a lot of our customers. So we don't get around it. We try and facilitate it, I guess. So we're trying to do a signpost where customers can go to sit on that particular product, help them find it near them. So that's our role really, to in an omni-channel way, to sort of help customers find the right way to get the right product for them.
I'll have to have a play online. I actually, it wasn't from DFS years ago. I can't remember where it was from. And I bought a sofa, which I sat on in the showroom and I loved it. But then it turned up in my house and I was like, this is way too big for my living room. And I lived with it for about 6 months. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's an amazing sofa in the completely wrong room. So even buying it in the physical store, you can still get it very wrong sometimes as well. That's good to hear though. Thanks for that. And I'll come back to you for some further questions shortly as well. Sorry for the slight interruption there. Hopefully we'll hold the signal and the weather won't get too crazy. You wouldn't believe it's May the 20th, really, would you? Someone seems to have forgotten to tell the weather that it's nearly summer. Steve, what's the weather like with you, Steve, out of interest? Is it a lovely morning with you?
Yeah, it's actually sunny and probably 65 right now. And it's going to be like a high of 82.
I would happily swap your view for mine right now, I can tell you. But thanks for being so patient. We finally get to ask you a question as well. So specific challenges to using AR for eyewear. Are there specific benefits that might not be obvious?
Yeah, I mean, so yes, there are. When we came to Vertebrae or to using AR in general, I had a slightly different experience. I had essentially written off the idea that we were going to do it. We had looked at lots of other solutions. And I always had a similar frustration, which was that when someone was either taking a picture or looking at a video of their face, they could either increase the size of their face or decrease it, or they were allowed to increase or decrease the size of the eyewear. So you never really got an accurate you couldn't tell if it fit, because if it didn't, you could just make it bigger. Okay, this looks good on me, which wasn't accurate. So I honestly wasn't even ever going to be interested in AR because I didn't think anything was going to work right. And by chance, I happened to be longtime friends with a member of Vertebrae's executive team. And he reached out to me and said, hey, we have a solution that I think you're going to be very interested in, and let's check it out. And to be honest, I was very doubtful and hesitant when we first looked at it, because I was like, yeah, I'm friends with them, so I'll do it. I'll take a look at the demo. But I was shocked when we saw the demo, and in the reality mode, the glasses that they said, send us some glasses and we'll make digital versions of them. And I couldn't believe how accurate they were with sizing. And we kept doing, in the office, we were handing around the phone and we were taking screenshots, and with the glasses on all different size faces while it was live. And then we went back and tried the glasses on that we had in the office and took screenshots. And they were so incredibly close together that we were very impressed. And I was like, okay, this seems like something we should do. Some of the challenges that in doing eyewear are, the big problems are fit. Is it going to fit somebody? When they get it, is it going to look like they thought it was going to look if they were using some sort of augmented reality? Is the color of the frame going to do well with their skin tone? We have lots of people who buy interesting looking colored frames, bone or something, and then they get them home and they're like, oh, this looks terrible on me. And then one of the other big things that you wouldn't necessarily realize, especially when frames are maybe more toward the style or fashion end, there might be some that are, not super mainstream. And someone on a screen, they look great. And then someone gets them home and they're like, oh, these are very cool. They're just not cool on me, or I don't like them on me. And that's something that's hard to, when someone's not trying something on in reality, that's hard to account for, because you get a lot of returns like that. Like, oh, those are killer. They're not me, or someone doesn't feel, even though we might look at them and say, they look great on you, they don't feel confident wearing them, or they think maybe they're too much for them. When we originally looked at doing it, our thought was that it would help us mitigate returns. We weren't really even thinking about increasing sales or conversion. And so, yeah, I guess when things are going on someone's face, if you're holding it out there that this is a virtual try on and this is how they're going to look and fit, they really need to look and fit very close to the virtual try on, or you're going to worsen your situation and generate more returns than you would have otherwise.
How did implementing all of this work with regards to return? Did it mitigate returns for you?
Yeah, so our returns, so right now we're kind of with Vertebrae deep into a data analysis project to sort of see if we can directly correlate. I will tell you this, our returns have dropped substantially. So, is it, maybe as we get larger and more people know us, they already have a style and they're coming to buy another color. So that helps. But we generally currently attribute a decent amount of the drop to the virtual try-on experience beforehand. Soon we'll know for sure, but it's a crystal ball a little bit. It's hard to completely know why someone didn't return, because that's the measurement we're looking at. But yeah, we feel good that it helped.
Good to hear. I guess it's quite a key metric. If you can reduce something as commercially detrimental as returns, that's a key benefit straight away, right? Thank you, sir. I'm going to come back to you, Vince, if I may. If you think about an e-commerce brand that doesn't currently use AR, I guess it can be quite intimidating for some businesses to just know where to get started and get their arms around it, and really think about, where do we start with this? What advice would you give, e-commerce brands looking to get started, and how should they do it?
Yeah, I think that depending on the types of products that you sell, there could be opportunities to use pre-existing assets. So like in the case of James at DFS, one of the things that accelerated the volume of what we refer to as real-time 3D models, or basically AR experiences that customers can have. A thing that accelerated the volume of that was that they already did digital product photography, where, for instance, it's more cost efficient to digitally take photos of a couch that comes in 100 different colors than to ship 100 physical versions of that couch in each color and take a physical photo of them. So using that input format, we have a fancy term, auto decimation and conversion pipeline, but basically a tool that takes those really heavy, dense input files and then automatically makes them into a more consumer-facing state. But then also just in working with them, and that's been like a newer evolution that's come out. But even just starting working with them, like there were things, for instance, where they had swatches and patterns of their various sofas. And so we could take those swatches, patterns, colors, textures, materials, and then programmatically apply them out. So, maybe instead of just like taking the time to make one 3D model, we could actually make 20 or 30 within a set that all lined up. And so, there's definitely ways to create efficiencies when you're looking at a catalog. And then it gets into like, well, do I have product design files and what formats are those in? Or do I have digital photo renders that come from digital product photography? And so anyways, that was a long-winded way of saying sometimes there's easier ways to get started than just creating everything from scratch. But many times that's what ends up happening. And so to get started, there's typically 3 steps. One is the asset creation. So maybe that means shipping Vertebrae physical product, or maybe that means providing your own 3D models. Step 2 is then the user experience, and that's where we'll come in and advise on what are the button placements, iconography, where does the 3D viewer live on the page, what's the call to action on the AR button. How do you make that human enough where it's not just augmented reality, but it's either try it on or see it in your space, or something that, is just more human in nature that somebody can connect to that might not know what AR means. And once you have, and we'll do a lot of that work, in partnership with a creative team. And then from there, there's the technical integration. And so think of it like it's cloud-based JavaScript. It's similar to implementing like product reviews or, some other widget onto the site. It's not, there's nothing overly complex from a 3D and AR perspective. We kind of do that on our side. And for the clients, it's really a snippet of JavaScript that gets put on the page.
Thank you, sir. I think, sometimes it probably just feels quite overwhelming for e-commerce brands to know where to start. And it's almost like really breaking it down into those steps that you talked about. So it kind of feels bite-sized and manageable, I guess. Yeah, and I got too into the details on some of the pipeline elements, but the point there is to say that if you're, there's large efficiencies to be created depending on the type of product you sell and the type of input files you may already have. And then going forward, there's also ways, for instance, to back it into your product development process. So maybe you're developing products in a specific 3D format, and we may have a connector into that system to be able to take and use those elements, or we could build one together. And so for instance, there's ways that if you're looking to start with 3D and AR, not just from a marketing perspective, but move it upstream across the entire content stack to basically go from designing a product in 3D, using that 3D and AR experience in wholesale and sell-in, and then also using that same 3D and AR experience and sell through and on your direct to consumer, but also syndicate it out to retail partners. That's where the future of all of this is going, and being able to use that content ultimately. Thank you, sir. That's really an insightful answer. Thank you very much for that. And I'm sure lots of our audience would have found that super helpful. James, coming back to you at DFS, what were some of the biggest challenges you had, in implementation of AR in your business?
Yeah, Vince has covered some of the three key elements to consider around the getting the assets right, getting the UX correct, and the technical implementation. And I think for us, those three were probably pretty straightforward, given the support we had from the Vertebrae team, and given the assets we already had in place. I think for us, the challenges were probably more of the internal processes within our own teams that we'd probably underestimated. So understanding the approvals process we would set up internally, and what the sort of how would we use those assets that we've got, and how we'd have identified common covers that we have or materials across different ranges. So I think that was probably initially some of the toughest stuff for us. But I think what really helped was establishing a common language across the businesses. So what's an item, an article, a SKU, a product, a range, sort of let's talk about the same sort of, let's use the same language to describe what we're working with. That definitely helped. In terms of the user experience, I think we quite quickly learnt what worked for us. So Vince talked about some of the call to action labels and changing those. And for us, will it fit seemed to be the best sort of solution, rather than a 3D icon or an AR label. So that definitely worked. And the final thing I'll probably say in this sort of space is for us, just trying to prove that what we've done was making a difference was kind of an important thing for us to do. So we did do an on-off test to prove the incrementality of it all. So and that was super positive for us. So reassured us that the steps that we were taking were the right ones. So yeah, that's probably broadly it.
And remind me how many physical stores DFS has got?
About 100, and it's a good test, 120-ish.
Okay, I'll be checking. No, I think that's fine. So, I mean, when those 120-ish stores got closed down in March 2020, there must have been a sense of relief that at least the online business has developed down this path, yeah?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we've always we had seen it over the years before that we were growing our percentage share of business, I guess, and that was based on the fact that our journey was improving for customers, and that we'd always invested, as Vince said, in these color renders so that customers can see the sofas in every color that we've got, and that's really important to us. So investing in that platform and those assets did pay off through lockdown, definitely.
And did online go some way then to be able to mitigate the losses of sales through the very large store estates?
Yeah, we were pleasantly surprised. So we've also got a very strong telesales business where we saw quite a few. Whilst we did see a big boom in online orders, we also saw our telephone teams really step up and support those customers that perhaps weren't ready for e-commerce yet. So there's definitely those guys were very busy during that period.
Because there was a bit of a bounce, right? I mean, in terms of people weren't able to go on holiday, they weren't able to spend money in restaurants, and so they decided to make their homes better because they were spending a lot more time in them.
Yeah, we definitely saw that. Yeah, we definitely saw, and I think the industry has seen it, and it has resulted in some of the some pain points across the industry in terms of supply chain challenges, should we say, because of the volume just was unprecedented in terms of demand. So, but yeah, no, we're very thankful for it, obviously.
I think I just converted all my unspent pounds into food, basically. So that's the way it felt like, certainly in the first lockdown. Yeah. More food and more food, even better quality. So
you're going to have to,
yeah. Steve, back to you. So you talked about mitigating returns earlier on. Can you think of another problem that you were trying to solve by adding AR, and give an example of another improvement of a problem that you had and has seen a positive impact?
Yeah, so when we were looking at it, when someone's going to come buy reading glasses from our site, the four primary concerns they're going to have are, is it going to fit? Is this pair of glasses going to fit? Does this style look good on my face shape, or against my skin tone? And then the next one is the color going to be right? Is it going to look good on me? And then the last one is this the right strength? Is it a 1.5 or a 2 or whatever it is? Obviously, the last one, there's nothing we can do to help someone. They just have to know what they need, or they have to try trial and error. But our general thought was, if I could reduce on the extremes of the spectrum, so if I could reduce or eliminate the amount of people who bought stuff that was obviously way too big for them, or obviously way too small for them, or clearly they could determine that style was not gonna look good on them, that would be a huge win for us. Same thing with color. If we can help people get a handle on what the frame color is gonna look like on their face, and if it's what they want before they get it, it'll improve the overall experience. It lessens returns, but also the person, they don't, even if they buy something, they get it, they realize it's their fault and their bad choice, they send it back, they get something else. Even though it was their fault, like that's not the ideal customer experience. We'd like them to get the thing that's going to work for them correctly the first time. And if we could eliminate, the obvious things that AR could help with, the ones I mentioned: size, is the shape going to look good on my face shape, or is the style going to look good on my face shape? And do I like the color against my skin tone? That's a big win. And like I said, we only thought about it in terms of mitigating returns, but in reality, it also helps, raise conversion. And that's proven to be the case. I mean, with the customer engagement, anybody who engages with virtual try-on for us, they convert at about 70% more than someone who doesn't on the product page. And plus, people are happier. Customers are happier. We send out a variety of surveys from time to time, and the people liking the virtual try-on, and the fact that they thought, when they did the virtual try-on and then when they got the real product, they thought the size was almost exact to what they had seen. We constantly get comments about it, which is cool. And like I said, that's kind of one of the reasons we hadn't really ever put much thought into it, is I had never seen one that I thought would work accurately. But those problems, the 3 of the 4 that we can control, those are the ones we were trying to knock out. And so far, like, we've been very pleased with, and we're, the internal team is probably the most critical audience, far more so than our customers, because we have our expectation is, hey, it's going to be exact, and we've been very impressed. And it has not been a difficult process to get up and running. It really hasn't. I mean, it took us a little while to figure some stuff out, but I was impressed by, relatively speaking, how seamless. We pulled the assets together, we got them over to the team. They were finished digitizing. They did the work with our developer. They got back to us, and voila, it went up. We've had very few hitches in the giddy up. And I mean, we think it has contributed significantly to the reduction in returns. And
It's great to hear. It's quite the success story by the sounds of it.
Yeah, we're stoked. We're very pleased with it.
Thanks for that. I'm going to come back to you, Vince, again, if I may. Vince, difference between AR on a phone or a desktop. Do they have to be different? Can they be the same? Help me unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make that experience just feel the same to a consumer, but there are differences. And so, in the same way, like, for instance, if you think about, for product photography, right, you have a JPEG and a PNG, and you have a high res version and a low res version, and those are used in, some are used in ads, some are used on the product detail page for different purposes. Same thing with 3D and AR, except there's just new formats, and there's a longer alphabet soup list of what they're called. And so going between desktop and mobile, many times there's different formats of the same asset. And so then behind the scenes, it's making sure that there's a consistent looking product experience. And then how that's manifested on the site. Obviously, you can't see a couch in AR through a webcam on a computer, but you can pull up the QR code. And then, but for things where you can do front-facing experiences, you can pull up, like in Steve's case with Cacace, you can pull up and have the virtual try-on from a desktop computer as well. Now, there are advantages to the mobile experience, and namely those are like, if you look at the back of your iPhone, you have like 3 cameras on it, right? And now, on the front, there's at least 2 cameras. And so one of those cameras on each side is a depth camera, and that depth allows you to measure accurate size and scale exactly. Whereas on a desktop webcam, for instance, like this Zoom camera that I'm being filmed from right now, there isn't a second camera there. So you have to simulate depth. So you get very close to accurate. But when you're on a mobile device, you can be exactly accurate because you have 2 cameras. It's like having 2 eyes, right? It'd be like trying to cover one eye and guess how far away something is. It's just slightly harder and less exact to do. But a lot of those tools and technologies are getting better and better every day. And the difference between the 2 experiences is minimal now, but it's all about making the consumer journey the same. And I think like one of the interesting things that between Cacace and DFS is very different products, but you notice a lot of the same customer issues, right? The size, the fit, the color, a lot of the things that have come up here today. And that's what's cool about this is you see that those same challenges across, many different industries. So being able to just solve those in the right way for the consumer, like the desktop experience, sometimes you can have a much bigger 3D viewer where you can, really get into the details of the item and more of a full screen capacity. So there's benefits to that experience as well. And what we see is that many customers want to have both experiences. They want to see if they're buying a sofa, they want to have the full screen photo experience, but they also want to be able to see it in their space.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, and there's no kind of application download needed to replicate it on a phone. It can be just a web browser on a phone. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and that's like really the one of the strongest value propositions that we've brought to market is we were the first company to do this on the web without the need for downloading anything extra.
App free. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a click of a button.
Cool. Good to know. Thank you, sir. James, what's planned at DFS then in this field? Is there more a deepening of the AR? Is there more things planned, more innovation? What's going on?
Yeah, I think for us, the challenge really is letting more people know we've got it. So I think, we spent quite a lot of time building up the asset library, but I think for us and we've got plans in place, but just signposting it better online, but also bringing it more into the offline space. So a little QR code on some adverts or, even introducing it into our stores. So that's the plan for us really. It's just a better awareness of the investment we've made in the tool and letting customers see what they can do with it.
Okay, good to know. Vince, I think you've already seen something that went into the chat for you, which was from David. The question dropped into the chat function, but it's how do we try the Cacace application? I can't find it on the website. And David, thanks for that question. Vince has already replied with a link and has said to click the virtual try on button as well. So hopefully that answers your question, David. Steve, staying with you. Coming back to you. Sorry, Steve. What were the biggest challenges for you in driving the decision to implement AR? You've spoken about it very positively. It's been a real win for the business. But what was the biggest challenge in that journey? Were there any at all, or was it pretty straightforward and seamless?
No, I mean, like I said, I had written off the idea of AR because I'd never seen a platform that would give you an accurate size representation on your face. You could always make the glasses bigger or smaller or the head bigger or smaller. And to me, that didn't make any sense because it wasn't accurate. Yes, you could probably solve that. Does this color look good against my skin? Or maybe even does this shape look good with the shape of my face? But I thought in a lot of ways it was misleading for a consumer because they would think that, they could adjust so it looked good on them, then they'd get the glasses and it wouldn't be right. So I had no interest in doing AR until Rob reached out to me from Vertebrae. And then when we looked at it the very first day, we were, like I said, we were super impressed. Just, I actually did, because he had told me, hey, we have a reality experience that will show an accurate size on a face. And I was like, what? You're kidding. And I don't believe you. So we sent them all the assets. They made one of our glasses for us and said, here, let us show you. And the first day we tried it, we were shocked. And that was it. I knew that if there was an accurate virtual try-on, we'd be all for it. But I had just never seen one before. And once we saw it, we were in. There weren't a lot of hurdles other than that. It's just we had never seen one we thought was good.
Yeah, I think what's really come across from you today, Steve, as well, is that it's just the massive impact and benefit it's had to the business as well,
sure.
Which I think will be encouraging for the audience who are thinking about dipping their toe into this water, basically. Guys, time is flying by. We have no other questions pending at the moment, so I'm conscious of the clock. We're going to start coming to our final questions. And what we've been doing with the other panels is asking our panelists to really recommend other websites or other experiences that they may have seen that they particularly enjoy personally. And this around the AR field, can each of you offer the audience a sort of a case of best practice that's not an immediate example of your own business and so on? So Vince, coming to you, what would be a brilliant website to experience some AR for our audience to take a look at?
I really like, and you can only do it from mobile, but on Apple's website, where they do the iMac, if you look at the iMac, you can see all the different colors. And I love, they changed the AR button where it'll be like, depending on the color that you've selected, it'll say, see iMac in blue or see iMac in green, depending on, which one that you're looking at. And they actually changed the text of the AR button around it. And it's Apple, so you can just expect it to be a really smooth implementation. But I generally love Apple's product detail pages. I think the way that they use renders, but then simple animation as you're scrolling that connects the cases of the computer, changes the color. Like I think they're probably like the definition of a beautiful e-commerce site in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of their physical spaces as well. I just kind of, as a retailer, they just excite me. They just get it so right. So yeah, there's a lot about Apple to like. So it's a great example. Thanks, Vince. James, who would you call out as a recommendation or one to look at?
Well, Vince has stolen Apple out of but yeah, I think.
Oh, yeah, I got to go first.
Well, other than Cacace, obviously, but the example that Vince shared with us previously of good example of it, best in class use is in CB2. I think one of the things I really liked there was the visualization of a customer using the tool. And that's something that we're going to have a look at. But in terms of trying to showcase, for some customers, the word AR doesn't mean anything. Even try it in your space doesn't mean anything. But actually being able to see a customer use the tool, I think they've got a few good examples of how that's been done well. So,
great example. Thank you, sir. And then Steve, wrap up the panel for us. Who would be an AR recommendation for you?
James kind of stole my answer. I was going to say Crate and Barrel. I was going to say CB2.
You've all been passing it down the line, stealing each other's answers.
Yeah, and they and I actually I didn't know that Crate and Barrel did it until we recently bought some furniture from there, and my wife was showing me, and it kind of made me laugh. I was like, yeah, this is essentially a different version of what we do, but with furniture. But I just think it's good. I thought, when we did it, I thought that the cabinet that we bought and then also the chair looked very well represented in our room, and it didn't look cartoony. It didn't look kind of hodgepodge or homemade. gave us a sense of what it would look like in our house. And it was great.
They're our first customer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we were stoked.
Thank you. And Steve, again, thank you for your contribution to the panel. Vince, by the way, has, as ladies and gentlemen of the audience, has offered to share his email for any of you that have any questions. Do feel free to email Vince directly. It's vince@vertebrae.com. So Vince, name of the business, vertebrae.com. And he'll be able to help with any questions that you may have. Feel free to email him direct. That's a wrap. We actually held our audience, guys. So holding our audience on the last session of the day is a credit to all of you three. So thank you so much indeed for doing that. It makes my job so much easier when the panel basically takes control of the webinar and comes out with such insightful content. So Vince, James, and Steve, thank you so much. These sessions are recorded, so we'll be sharing the recording of the session on YouTube and on LinkedIn. That does wrap up the day for the Retail Bulletin today. All that's left for me to say is good evening to those of you that are here in the UK. Stay warm and cozy with this dreadful weather outside, and wish you guys over in the States a really good day ahead as well. Thanks, everybody, and look forward to seeing you at future events. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.